Terri Clarkson studio. Good to see you again. We didn't know each other until you came over to the house. I really enjoyed that. I don't always enjoy them.
I did too. It felt like a really intense therapy session, part of that. It was really great.
I rarely don't enjoy them, but with anything else, it'd be like a show that you do. If you're you don't hate doing shows, but some of them just fall in, and you're just like, you just do a show, and it was good, and you move on. But I really enjoyed the time. I guess because I was a fan of you for a long, long time and didn't know you, and that can go either way when you meet somebody.
Yeah, are they going to be, what you think they are, or are they going to be
just close?
What they are?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Well, I enjoyed meeting you too. I'm a fan of yours, and I have a radio show, and you tend to kind of want to listen to people, and their conversational skills when they're interviewing people, and you're one of those people that I think a lot of artists are starting to dabble in radio now.
like podcasting, radio, and but you're good at it.
Well, thank you very much. But you're, there's a reason you're winning all these awards and stuff. So congratulations. And I really enjoyed our last chat. So when they said we were coming back, now we can actually talk about the record. We couldn't remember the publicity people were all like, no, they were giving us the whole windmill thing.
I didn't think that was weird. It was like, hey, Terri Clark's coming over, but she can't talk about anything.
Right.
I'm like,
but we still found a lot to talk about.
Wonder what we're going to do.
We talked about childhood baggage instead.
All right. So how I found out about your record is one of my best dear friends, Ben Rector, said, hey, I'm going to go record with Terri Clark. Do you know her? And at the time I didn't. And I was like, I don't know her, but I'm a fan of her. Let me know how it goes. And he came back and he was like, she was delightful. That was his description of you, delightful. So you got a lot of artists to come back and sing your big songs. Mm-hmm. What's that I don't know. How do you pick? Does everybody say yes? Sometimes do they not sing it exactly like you want? Like, what is that process like?
Well, I started with kind of a list of my wish list of people, and I called Ashley McBryde first, and we've been friends since 2017. So she said yes and jumped on board, and I wanted her to do Better Things to Do because it was the debut single, and she had publicly talked about how much that debut album meant to her when she was a kid, growing up in Arkansas, and how she felt like she was different than the rest of the girls, and she would, she was a tomboy, and she saw my image and really got into the music, and it helped her feel like she belonged, I guess. And so her singing on Better Things to Do was a natural fit to me. And then after Ashley agreed, when you get one, it's kind of easier to start going, well, Ashley McBride's doing this. Did you go to Lainey Wilson?
You'd be crazy not to do it if Ashley's going to do it.
Yeah, Ashley is like, she is amazing. Yeah. And she's so respected around town for her songwriting and her artistry, especially. It's just amazing. So, and then I love Lainey Wilson for so many reasons. I love the fact that she's such an individual. You can recognize her by a silhouette. There aren't a lot of people that you see their silhouette, you know automatically who it is. Lainey Wilson's one of those people, and I loved her music, and so I asked her. Everybody said yes. There were only a couple. There were only a couple of people that had scheduling conflicts that couldn't do it. But Ben Rector, I've been a fan of. We talked about him last time, and his immense talent. He's genius. He's one of those almost prodigy type guys.
It's annoying. Let's say it.
It's totally annoying.
Yes, he's so good.
It's so annoying. Yeah. We could have kept the first take on Now That I Found You and been fine with that. And he's just incredibly talented. And I was so happy to see him opening for Dan and Shay because he needs to be exposed to those huge audiences. My manager actually wasn't as familiar with Ben Rector until she went to their show, and she texted me and she said, man, now I know why he's on your record, why you wanted to get him on your record. She said, I wasn't that familiar with him, but I am a fan now. And that's he, and he was so gracious, humble, kind, and added so much to that arrangement and track.
The album is called Terri Clark Take Two. I'm going to read some of the other people on it. Lauren Elena, Kelly Clarkson, Cody Johnson, Ashley McBryde, Carly Pierce, Ben Rector, Lainey Wilson, and Paul Brandt. Paul is because our show's in Canada as well. Paul's a massive Canadian star.
He is, yeah. And we'd never toured together, and it always made sense to me. That kind of a ticket always made sense to me. But he was always headlining, and then I was headlining, and then we both kind of gave the market a bit of a break. Paul is very, very savvy businessman. He's very smart. He knows not to overplay Canada. There are only so many venues in Canada. We don't have the population. We don't have the venues that the United States does. And I'm lucky that I can bounce back and forth, across the border and play both markets. But Paul's been really careful and protected that as an artist, and I really respect his business model in doing that. So when I went to him with this idea, I said I had just a few years earlier done a cross Canada solo tour. I do a lot of solo shows. I just have guitars around me. I have a Ditto looper, which is a little stomp box thing that you can create loops on, and I have a porch board, which creates kind of a kick drum. So I do this one woman show and tell jokes and stories about songs, and it was sold out across Canada in 2016. And so I went to him with the same concept in 2018. I said, we should do this together. Like, it just makes total sense, and fans love that intimate type of setting. So we went out in October and November last year and did, BC through Ontario, and we're in talks about possibly doing another run. But it's
that's cool.
Yeah, that take of Easy on the Eyes was live in Toronto. We didn't go in and fix any vocal things. We didn't go tweak a whole lot. We added bass and drums in the studio when I was in tracking the last 4 for take 2 just to give it a little lift. But what you see is what you hear is what you get. And it was fun to be able to have a live track on there and have my friend Paul be doing it with me as a duet.
I don't know if this is sensitive to ask, but there was a story about Playboy asking you to be in the magazine, but then they asked you to be fully clothed, and then you said no to all. Is that accurate?
No.
Okay.
There's no way Playboy is going to pay me money to be fully clothed, and they're not going to pay me anything these days. But this was about 20 years ago, I would say, and it was right before I got inducted into the Opry. And tomorrow night's my 20-year anniversary, and same night Lainey Wilson's getting inducted as a member, which is really full circle and so cool. But 20 years ago, there was an online poll. It's so stupid. That, what female country singer would you like to see pose for Playboy? And I came in, I don't remember who was first and who was second, but me and Shania Twain, who could not be more polar opposite 20 years ago, especially, came in top 2. I don't understand why. So they came to me and offered me, I'm just going to say $1 million 20 years ago, which is more like 3 right now, because of inflation. And then my manager, Clarence, I said, there's no way I'm posing. Like, meet and greets can get weird enough as it is. Can you imagine?
Can you imagine they bring that in to have you sign? Oh,
seriously,
my God.
Man. And then, so Clarence, this is the funniest story. Marnie, my day-to-day manager at the time, walked into my manager, Clarence Spalding's office, and she had an intern with her. And the intern looked at his desk, and he was researching. He had Playboy magazines all over his desk and on the floor.
Research.
She's like, who am I going to work for? But he called me and he says, well, they said you can just show, you can go topless for like this amount of money. The full Monty, you get the full $1 million. So he's negotiating body parts to pose for Playboy. And I just said, Clarence, that all sounds like if I wanted a money grab, I would have done it. But I was just like, I just can't. I have too many young girls that are looking up to me. And I've always been pretty buttoned up. I'm not one of these people I'm very modest about my body and I don't like to show all anyway. And I said, this would go against every single thing I stand for. Being a strong woman, what's between your ears is more important than what's between everything else. So I said no, and I'm really glad I made that decision and didn't let greed or the dollars, get in my. And at the time, I was still trying to save, and I didn't know when I was going to have another hit. I always treated my last hit like it was going to be my last hit, so I've always been pretty frugal with money and things like that. So, if that's all that I had in my crosshairs, I would have gone for it. But there was such a bigger picture in playing the tape forward in that scenario. And not even 6 months later, I was asked to become a member of the Opry. And I don't know that would have happened. Right?
Yeah. You mentioned Lainey going into the Opry, and on your anniversary, I saw on Instagram you gave Lainey like an old school, like a vintage Terri Clark shirt.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. Do you have Ronnie down and I are friends, and he talks about how they have all this old stuff, and Kick's got a lot of it. And he's like, I gave it all to Kick when we split. So Kick's like, in the early divorce, because they're back together, Kick's got a bunch of the merch. And he's like, it was the dumbest thing, because merch is, that vintage merch is so valuable. Do you have a lot of your old school merch, or just like a couple things?
I have a couple things, because I've given all my T-shirts to the artists on take 2. I walked into the session with a T-shirt, and my mom, God bless her, would keep a lot of that old stuff. And I even had stuff from the very first tour in '95 for a long time. And I happen to be a mover. I tend to move a lot and change the scenery around me. I buy houses, and I've got a bit of an eye for design and renovation. So I seem to be kind of addicted to making a house really, really cool and then leaving it and going to doing it for another one. So I've lost a few of those little gems and moves, I think. And I may move again and end up, finding some stuff in a bin that I don't know about. But I probably have 10 left now.
Do you ever look on eBay and see what the old stuff of yours is going for?
No, I don't. I have no idea.
I'm gonna look right now. Let's look.
I have a feeling it's not going to be what you think.
Let's see.
Oh, Bobby.
Terri Clark vintage T-shirt.
$42.
Oh, no chance. No chance.
Well, while Bobby's loading that up, do you know where that intern is that was assigned to the Playboy magazines for you?
I don't know. And Marnie's here, who brought her in. I don't know where she is. I don't know if she actually left because of that. I don't know. She just was. Can you imagine?
I have your answer here. The cheapest one that's actually vintage from the 90s, the cheapest one is $80.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to keep them.
Vintage Terri Clark shirt. Poor Pitiful Me. 1990s. This one's extra large, $91.
Wow.
It's this one too.
The one I gave Lainey, probably.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that's the one I gave Lainey Wilson, and I don't know if I don't have any more of those. That was the only one I had in the bin, and she had to pin it. It was like a dress on.
Buy it now. I'm literally buying it right now.
You are not.
It said I am last one, and then we're extra large, but I'm gonna have it.
You can get
I'm
it
gonna
altered.
pin it like a dress. I want to wear it like Lainey did.
Yeah.
Okay. And it has been paid for. Boom. Wait till I wear this.
Oh, you're
thing.
so sweet. Thank you.
She didn't make any. We didn't make any money.
No, I didn't make any money.
Yeah.
I don't make any money off it now. Merch is a promotion tool. By the time you pay everybody their commissions, pay for the merch, and pay the taxes, you got about $3 left.
Did you say you don't pay taxes?
You go to McDonald's.
So you don't pay taxes?
No, I do. No,
Oh, no.
I'm
kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Sending the auditor to your house.
No. What do you consider your big break? If you had to identify one moment and someone said, Terri, what's your big break? Microphone in your face.
When I went and auditioned for Mercury Records.
How did you get the audition?
Well, it's such a long story. I had a demo tape floating around town when I was playing at Tootsie's. A producer from Apopka, Florida, who did a lot of production for Disney and Epcot Center, big productions on this thing called a synclavier. It's a keyboard that can mimic drums, bass, any kind of instrument you want. And he had this studio at his house in Florida. He walked in looking for a burger, and I was playing at Tootsie's in the front, on the stage where it's now a VIP booth. That's where my stage was. And he sat down and listened to me for 2 hours and then said, I'd like to, make a demo tape on you and try and get your record deal. So long story short, I go to Florida for like a month and stay in his basement. And he had a son the same age. We won't get into that. But
is there any part of you though that's like, this guy's watching me for 2 hours and it's like, this is weird?
Yeah, well, he was observing, I guess, the
No, I see why. I mean, but I still would, as
the creature in its natural habitat.
Like, why is this dude? He wants me to stay at his house.
Yeah,
like a
weird.
little bit of me would be like, I don't know if I should do this.
I think my mom obviously checked it out and interviewed him and made sure that I wasn't going to end up chopped up in pieces somewhere. And so I did that, and we made this demo tape, and he took it to a few people in Nashville, shopped it around. I wound up with a manager named Woody Bowles, and we kind of, the demo was okay. It was very manufactured sounding, but it caught the attention of a guy named Brian Kennedy, who had a spec deal with MCA Publishing where he could bring artists in and make demos, like demo masters. So he got $10,000, and he called me and wanted to take me in, and he became one of my very good friends in town. And he's also really tight with Garth Brooks and and Trisha and that whole camp still is. I think he works for Garth now, but his dad was Jerry Kennedy, who produced all the early Reba stuff. So I was like, oh my God, a Kennedy, not those Kennedys, the Kennedys of Nashville. So we went in and we cut, I think, 4 sides, and Vince Gill came and sang on one, and Carl Jackson played guitar, and oh God, we had just amazing players on this. It was super country. Keith Stegall ends up hearing this demo like 3 years after we did it. It floated around town. Carl Jackson played it for a few people. And so long story short, he called me to come play live for him. And he had so much going on at the time. He said, I want to work with you so bad, but I got all these other people. I'm trying to wrap some projects up. And I thought, that's just a no, right? 6 months later, Woody calls me and says, Keith Stegall's just been promoted to the head of A&R at Mercury Records, or hired as the head of A&R at Mercury Records. And he wants you to come in and sing for Luke Lewis. And I had thought he'd forgotten about me. So I went in with my guitar, sat in the boardroom in front of him and Luke, and Woody was there, and I wore the most god-awful Mo Betta shirt. It looked like somebody threw up on it. It was, in the 90s, the Brooks and Dunn Garth Brooks shirts. I still got the shirt. And they called me the next day and offered me a record deal. And this is after I had already been in talks with Sony Music, because I was a Sony tree writer at the time. And Paul Worley had gone over to Sony, and he had a full roster of females, so he couldn't do it. And so they offered me a full-fledged record deal, and I couldn't believe it was finally happening. And it was 8 years after I moved to town. It was a long process.
What I hear, and I think what everybody should hear, is your big break was actually you grinding it out, taking advantage of a very small break, turning that with your work ethic and talent into a mid break. You stayed focused. Somebody happened, like you were prepared when the opportunity hit.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like, here's a platter and here's your life. You now get to have a record deal.
Yeah.
It was like you worked hard and took one small thing, and that just kept leading to another. And then before you know it, you're an overnight success.
Well, it was such a heartbreaking process, because I went and sang for Curb Records and Elektra Records and Sony, and they all showed interest in. I even had one of them tell Woody, she's probably the most powerful country singer, female country singer I've heard in a really, really long time, but it's not what we're looking for. And there were a lot of tears. I'd go home, and my husband at the time and I would, just be like, what's it going to, one heartbreak after another. But every door that closed, another one opened. And there was always like that carrot dangling that kept me focused. And something inside told me not to give up, that the right opportunity was going to come along. And when Luke and Keith signed me, that was the right place for me to be. And Keith was Alan Jackson's producer, Randy Travis. Like he got the country thing. He wasn't trying to turn me into something else. He signed me because of that. And, I really appreciated the artistic freedom they gave me, especially on my 4th album. That was not as mainstream. They were really great. They were a great label for me to be on, and that worked out the way it was supposed to. I just had to wait a little while.
Do you ever perform not in a cowboy hat?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, when I do solo shows, there is mostly for those ones. Sometimes I'll kind of wear it for half the show, but I realize it's such a trademark that I really don't take it. I've never seen you not in a cowboy hat. I do a rock encore in my show. I do a rock medley of, pop and rock songs, and I'll take it off for that. And just for something a little bit different, but then I put it right back on. Have you had to sign thousands of cowboy hats? Oh gosh, yeah. It's probably the number one thing. Oh, absolutely. A lot of cowboy hats. And I hate those ones that are those really cheap ones that look like they've been woven. They're hard to sign. They got holes in them. Do you get a real hat? And I learned John Party's a friend of mine, and he has given me cowboy hats. I'm not a cowboy hat guy, but he's like, you wear like a felt, I could be wrong, like a felt type hat in the winter and definitely a straw type hat in the summer. Do you after
do that? Memorial
Day, yeah.
Are you kidding? Like the white, like you can't wear jeans, white, you can't wear. Yeah. So do you have different kinds of hats depending on the weather? Yeah, I usually switch to straw, June 1st or right after Memorial Day. It's the thing to do. And yeah, and I honestly was wearing straw hats because I had a bit of a deal with a hat company for a while, and they didn't really make great felt hats. So I wore straw hats for a good 10 years all the time. And then when that deal was over, I'm like, I'm going right back to the whole Texas cattleman's crown cowboy hat, and I'm going to do it the right way. Felt in the winter,
and fall and straw in the summer.
2 more hat questions, because I just thought about them. Your hat is bent in a specific way. It's very much your shape.
Yeah.
Who does that?
I do it.
And how do you do it? Do you have like a mold now that's just the Terri mold and you put it in the hat?
A steamer. You use a steamer and you can shape a hat the way you want. In fact, this is a funny story. I had to go get a hat for a photo shoot, and I was in the middle of another move, so all of my felt hats were in storage. So I went downtown to, I think it's a boot country down on Lower Broadway, to get a felt hat. And I walked in and bought the hat, and they wouldn't let me shape it. They said, it's just, we have to do it. And I said, oh, God, please. So funny thing is, I used to work at Boot Country in Hendersonville before I got a record deal, and the same guy owns the whole chain. So I said, can you call Ed Smith and tell him his former employee would like to shape her own hat?
Yeah, name drop, got him.
Right. So they did. They said, well, just let her do it. They made the exception. It's an insurance thing. The steamer can burn you or something like that. So because I was going right from the store to the photo shoot, I didn't have time to go home and do it. But that's how you shape them. You use a steamer, and it makes them soft, and you can shape them. But yeah, I do kind of have my own shape. I never just wear a hat the way it is off the shelf.
If you don't wear a hat, will there be people that don't recognize you that should, that you know? Because I've not worn my glasses, and executives have passed me, didn't even know it was me.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely your glasses are your trademark. You know, people, somebody could draw a caricature of you with your glass. They'd know it's you.
Yeah. Or Harry Carey, one of the two.
Harry Carey.
Yeah. Okay. So look, we're going to play some stuff from your record, and you're just so fun to talk to. So let me say this. She has like 20 dates left this year. The record is out. Terri Clark, Take 2. I think we'll play the Ashley Better Things to Do in its entirety.
Okay.
I like this one a lot too, because I like both of you. And I think this is the song I think about. Is this most people's number one song with you?
I would say it's the number one streamer, but the Cody Johnson, Kelly Clarkson duets on Take 2 are blowing up stream. They're doing really well.
I guess I mean just in general with your songs.
Like, my songs, yeah, that's the one I think most people identify me with.
Yeah.
It was the first one. It was, that whole pan from my boots all the way up, and I'm this super skinny 26-year-old girl. That's the thing people remember. And the T-shirt sleeves rolled up and the hat with the electric guitar. That was it was a very, it was a very defining moment.
Where do you play that in your show? Last? You have to play it last?
Yes, I play it last, and the audience gets to sing, and it's a big party, and it's so much fun. And we're doing the new arrangement from the new record actually on that one. It's not that different, so I don't even know if nobody notices it, but it's fun for the band. I'm playing electric on it now, and I used to play acoustic, and we're enjoying playing some fresh takes on these.
The melodies are the same though, right? Because the worst thing is when you go watch an artist and it's like, here's a song that was a hit for me, but I'm now going to do it operatic style.
No. I think the customer's always right, and they're buying a ticket to hear something that they can sing along to. Don't mess with the business. That is the business you don't mess with. And I'm not going to go see James Taylor or Fleetwood Mac or somebody or Bonnie Raitt and want to hear something completely off the wall of a song that I love so much,
Or a whole lot of new stuff. I'm good with a couple new.
Oh yeah, I
don't want a whole show of new stuff.
Yeah. I even play, like, if I need more content in my show, I'll play some stuff that were hits in Canada, but weren't here. But I'll also play songs that maybe weren't huge hits here, but were singles, like Dirty Girl and Three Mississippi, and
I don't even mind new stuff, but as long as it's like 5 in a row.
Yeah. No, I think it's important for artists to stick to a roadmap of hits in their show, because that's what people really want. And 90s country's kind of this thing now that people have really gone back to and are digging deeper. And some of them may have heard your songs for the very first time listening to a playlist. And they're going to show up and buy a ticket to your show, and it's going to sound completely different?
Yeah.
No, that would suck.
Final question. To stay grounded, who have you had in your career that will tell it to you straight?
Well, I'll tell you something. My manager, Clarence, is no BS at all. Like, he is very, very honest, and he will give me the real story. And I think that's really important. My mom, when she was alive, was definitely that person. And I've got friends that I ate dirt with in my life that have been around for 40 years who are very, very honest with me. I have some and music fans in general, and see artists and ask questions about the industry, but that I can lean on for when you go to a show or, okay, if somebody really iconic, not me, I'm talking about a James Taylor or somebody, it makes a new record. Are you excited about that? No? Okay. Like it's sort of it's that honesty. Like, do I make another record of new music or not? I don't know. If I do it, I'm doing it for me.
Yeah. I'm
going to do it because it's something I really want to do without any kind of expectation of an outcome, because it's the only reason to do that stuff now. But, I do talk to my friends. I have people in my life that are very honest and always will be, and people whose opinions I really respect.
I have found that the people that I care about that will tell me when something's not good are the people that I care about when they tell me something is good. Because it's anybody, people say all kind of good stuff to you if things are going well for you because they want to be around the success.
Right.
And so it's really, I only take good from the people that I care about and will hear bad from.
It's amazing who I'm hearing from, who's texting me, because now I'm talking about this project and I'm a little more in the forefront as far as, doing some interviews and press and stuff. And it's like, oh, look who just texted me.
Right.
It's just, you have to take it as it comes. And
I try not to take criticism from anybody I wouldn't take advice from.
Absolutely.
Because
I think that's right.
Everybody wants to offer criticism out of nowhere.
Everybody's an armchair expert, and thinks they know. There was somebody who the comments on the new record have been all so positive and so great, and everybody's loving it. But there's always a couple, and one person was like, "Why does your voice sound like it's in a wind tunnel? It's compression, right?" But people who aren't engineers mix records now with different effects, because how most people listen to music through their iPhone speaker. Like, a lot of people just run around listening to stuff through an iPhone.
They're mixing music based on
They have to almost the volume has to be different. Like, it's a whole different world now.
Terri Clark, Take Two, with music from obviously all Terri songs, but Lauren Elena, Paul Brandt, Kelly Clarkson, Cody Johnson, Ashley McBride, Carly Pierce, Ben Rector, Lainey Wilson. Also go to terryclark.com. Bunch of shows all the way through 2020. You have a show in 2025 on the list. What the heck is that show?
And there's a whole bunch of shows that we haven't announced yet that are coming up this winter, and we're adding stuff all the time. So we're all in all, we're probably going to be at 75 shows for the year by the time we're done, which is a really good year.
Final question. I washed dishes for about a year and a half.
I did too.
It was a terrible job.
I washed dishes.
I worked at a restaurant. It was a terrible job. I had to work out of that to be a busboy. And I am not somebody who likes gross. I don't do well with gross, but I wash dishes.
You don't do well with gross.
I don't. And that's the grossest job, especially if you don't have a good wait staff that's helping you, at least on the front side, cleaning, like scraping the plates.
It is horrendous. Did you have the big sprayer and
yes.
the big rack? Yeah. I did that in high school for my high school job. Yeah.
What did you learn from washing dishes?
That people are gross.
Exactly. Exactly. And I try to not be so gross because of that. Yes, they're
disgusting.
Gross. Terri Clark, great to see you. You're one of my favorites now. You're one of my favorites when I didn't know you, but now that I know you, you're one of my favorites.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah. And you're absolutely one of my favorites. Maybe the favorite interview ever that I've gotten to be a part of.
Today.
That's not a word. No, I mean, I really enjoy talking to you. Like, I would sit and have dinner with you, and we could have some really off the record conversations. That would be, I think, really meaningful. So I like getting that feeling from somebody I'm talking to, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I would secretly record it and bring it on the next day. But it would be good, though, right?
And dinner would have to be early.
Dinner would be like 4:30, because that way you guys early.
That's what you do.
All right, there she is. Terri Clark, everybody.
It's about a bone show.